Good evening. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, November 7th, 2022, in person and online. So it's official, 12 months we've needed. I'd like to thank council members for this amazing past year. It's been certainly a road of learning and of coming together. I feel we have a really strong team and also a wonderful staff and directors. With regards to vision and leadership, Council's aim continues to build on the strong foundation that past councils and directors have set. We will continue to spotlight the achievements and added value brought forward by our directors and employees, as they are the heart of the organization. We're looking to continue to build trust and pride in the administration and the governance. With regards to our interim director general here present, Martin Wood, he and I met with Jonathan Claude of DHR Global this week. This is the hired headhunter. We are expecting a long list of candidates by the middle of December and are looking to have a permanent DG in place by the end of February of 2023. With regards to this past year, I have gone through a campaign platform and the orientations that I had set for myself and shared with council members how I felt that I had graded or succeeded, and in some other elements, perhaps not so much. So it helps me keep on track and be able to deliver forward. There has not been much exchange with regards to what to do next year with parking or Jack Layton or the beach crowding. With regards to the dog ban, there had been a suggestion earlier on this year to have in place a dog park or run with access to the water in Thompson Park. Councillors and staff are asking for a parks plan. I have asked that we place our large elements first. This means in terms of the public works building and perhaps a new town hall in the next 5 years or so. So to place these larger elements and then to move forward with the parks director's plan, or I should say, plan directeur des parcs. So the exercise of visioning where these may go will be paired with the strategic plan exercise to come in 2023 once we have the permanent director general in place. With regards to the preparation for the 2023 budget, this evening you will see comparative statements that will be submitted for review. I know that Steve Farrell is here and is scouring through the numbers, which is always helpful. On Tuesday, October 25th, I followed a training on la trajectoire d'insalubrité morbide. So this is with regards to homes and properties where people with the habits of accumulation and perhaps not maintaining their properties up to the standards for health and fire safety. There is actually an internal committee that exists since 2017 that is composed of our urban planning department, our building inspector, and also first responders. And all cases, please note that all cases that are signaled on our territory go through this team, and they have a list of properties that they have either a plan on how to redress the situation that they will meet and formulate a plan with the accord of the owner and follow them closely. They have also ties with the C3S of the region and also the different communal organizations. So it's a very solid strategy. It works very well. We're probably the region with the soundest approach to these kind of situations. It would be helpful if we had the bylaw that we were working on a few months ago in place that would give additional tools to some property owners and others to be able to move forward in a legal manner and have added weight. So we will be bringing that back eventually. Also, the people from the C3S are available to come and meet with the public and with council to explain that trajectory better and to explain that bylaw and why it is needed, so that you will probably see come forward. With regards to Louise Craig had asked me for MRC updates every month. It's been reasonably quiet in the past month as we are working towards the Lac à l'Épaule will be held not this week, but the following week. So it's 3 days where essentially all mayors are called in to go through the different programs and the different projects that are being prepared for the year. I'm sure Nicole remembers this process well. So to date, I know that Martin has assisted at a meeting at the MRC level with all DGs where you've received la quote-part anticipée pour l'an prochain, so the numbers aren't final, but they're, vous l'avez reçu officiellement. Donc,
Tous les
peut-être
codes-parts sont rentrés d'ailleurs.
toutes les quotes-parts sont
Oui,
rentrées.
la CMM aussi, c'est fait.
ARTM aussi.
Oui, la SQ aussi.
Okay. Donc, so those are all numbers that have come in the last few days. It's what I understand from the MRC, it fluctuates around 15% in our case.
Exactement 15%.
Exactement 15%.
Pour la MRC, ouais.
And the SQ and CMM are around 6%. So we are anticipating that there will be an increase. With regards to the CMM updates, I actually have a meeting with the Commission de la Culture et du Patrimoine tomorrow morning at 9:30. This is a commission that I preside. I also attended on Sunday a rendezvous culturel in Terrebonne, which was very helpful and interesting with regards to cultural policies. So these are plans that operate from ideally 10 years, give a vision of where to head for the municipalities, and then action plans will be over 3 to 5 years and then get updated on an annual basis. But it's really for cultural development and where a town might set their focus and how they can assist different organizations in maintaining. I've also attended a couple of conferences on social and affordable housing, which have been extremely interesting. There's nothing concrete necessarily that I can bring to the table at this point, but I know that the region is looking to put in place a structure that will be more flexible than just dealing with la SHQ. So this will probably help us respond to the shortage of units that is right now in the region of in the order of around 1,000 units short. I know this is a reality that Nicole in front of me is dealing with on a regular basis. That's why I'm looking forward. With regards to MATA, I know that Laura here in the room has been working alongside with Sylvia Maury, who has brought forward a proposal to initiate and manage a drop-in center for the elderly in the community centers. So Laura has been assisting in applying for a federal grant that could be up in the range of the $25,000 with no matching contribution required by the town. Also, I'd like to thank Michael Legg for the history in lending me a past issue of the Gazette with regards to the creation of the first business association. I had a lovely phone call with him a few weeks ago, and it was very warm and rewarding. Also, thank you for Helen Foodie for dropping off the book, The Cost of Sprawl, at Town Hall. I have not had a chance to go through it, but I appreciate the loan of the book. We received a lot of noise complaints with regards to leaf blowers. It is the season of fallen leaves. And of course, a lot of complaints with regards to speeding in all parts of the town. And I will come back to this in a little bit. With regards to communications, Laura continues to do a wonderful job with, thank you, sending out weekly updates with regards to where the road work is coming along. I certainly continue to receive a lot of grateful messages from citizens that are pleased that we're making this effort. And also, I think the signs on the road at either end showing where the road is stopped is helpful as well. EXO continues to do the work, the upgrades of the culverts on their line. And this is work that had been in preparation for the last few years. It's not anything that they could necessarily put on hold while we were in discussion with them with the future of the train tracks. It was part of their long-term plan, and it continues. We also met with regards to public meetings and information. We met with the Willowbrook area residents on Thursday. With Hydro-Quebec, they had 3 representatives here, and they have collected the emails of the 10 families or so that were in attendance, and will be setting up a regular communication portal and providing regular updates to those families with regards to the timeline and if there's any improvement on how soon the permanent hookup will happen. With regards to brief presentations by local organizations, as you know, we have a space holder at the beginning of each meeting. So if there are any organizations in town that would like to give a brief presentation, I'm thinking of Bill Wyman and others, just let us know ahead of time and we'll lock you in. But it's a nice way to sort of have a une vitrine sur rue to inform essentially people in the community as to what you're working on. On our current projects, so with regards to public works, as you know, Main Road East is presently under work. It is proceeding well. We are starting with the widening part from 6 meters to 7 meters. So it is that 1 meter edge that is being dug and prepared for the full length of the 2.2 kilometers. And they are already at Léger. So they're starting from the west end and moving east. So it is going extremely well. This evening, you will see that there is a resolution to essentially increase the estimate of the work that is anticipated, because in this widening, there are some pipes that are expected to be underneath, some drainage pipes that might have been installed over the years that need to be dug out and moved over, and some ditches filled as well. So this was unforeseen in our first review of the project, as we were not expecting to go the full 7 meters. This is something that came when we actually extended that width after the loan bylaw was adopted. With regards to other work along the main arteries, I believe the resurfacing, what I call Main West, but it is from Côte Saint Charles to St. James Church, has been completed. Also, the section from Main to Côte Saint Charles and a few sidewalks as well up to the school have been completed as well. With regards to the quantity of requests that we are receiving on circulation concerns and speeding, Artin had a wonderful idea, bringing some of his experience from other towns, and suggested that the town look to put together a circulation committee. This will be, the template for us will be our neighbors, will be Vaudreuil-Dorion, a town that he knows well, that has one in function. 2 members of the council have been identified as being members of this committee. There will be 2 members of staff as well. So the Director of Public Works and his administrative assistant. All 4 will be attending the next circulation committee at Vaudreuil on November 16th. And we expect to have the policy and the framework in place for our committee to start as soon as January or possibly February, considering the holidays. I'm trying to give them some holidays. For a man who's only supposed to work 25 hours a week here.
Right.
Yes, you're doing wonderful. With regards to McNaughton Bridge, you will see this evening as well that there was a tender and that we have some results to share with you. With regards to Pine Lake Dam, following the 5 or so working meetings that were had this summer with local experts in an ad hoc committee, I have forwarded the recommendation that we look to reduce the size of the dam by integrating manually operated gates. Also, in parallel, the hydrological data from 2014 needs to be updated, as was identified during this work with these local experts. So the call to tender documents essentially, or the call to tender is being prepared right now. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have something to put forward so that we can start redesign essentially. So it's not the construction of the dam, it's really the redesign of the dam at this point.
Mrs. Mayor, just point of clarification, when you say to reduce the size of the dam, reduce from what was approved by previous council.
Correct.
I believe it'll be roughly the same size as the dam that's there currently.
Thank you, Darren. Yes. So that is correct. It will come back to the size, or we expect to be close to the size that it is now. And the hydrological data will ensure that the present size of the culvert running underneath Cameron will be able to assess whether, or experts will be able to assess whether that size, that diameter is adequate, or whether that culvert needs to be replaced as well. With regards to urban planning and the planning vision bylaws, so the progress on the RCI #1, the one for environmental protection, continues. As you remember, in September, Suzanne Hardy of Enracina came to Hudson and updated the inventory of remarkable trees. We are waiting for the results of this inventory that will be integrated in the next phase of our upgraded bylaws. Also, we will be meeting with the firm Paris Plus, who has been working on the strategies and on how those bylaws can be updated. That meeting is actually scheduled for next Monday. I just received confirmation, so next Monday evening we will be meeting with Paris Plus. With regards to the next phase, this will be for look and feel and heritage. We continue to look at our different options. We haven't come together with anything concrete. I'm trying to give a bit of breathing room to the staff. Whether it will be an RCI or a full lockdown on the full bylaws, it's uncertain. We're sort of going more towards a full revision of the planning bylaws is what I understand. I know that Reed will be giving an update, so I won't give away all. This is for the Arts and Culture Council in Hudson, but we will be meeting this week with Les Arts et la Ville to continue with that work, but I'll let Reed give us the update. This evening, you'll see under urban planning that there was a request for demolition that came to the committee of demolition. So the request for 4 properties were heard on August 30th. So this you will find is coming back this evening as the owner who is in the room. And I'm not sure who is with you, but I know you will be given a chance to speak to this. So they are in the room, they've appealed the decision, and this is why council then as a whole becomes the commission, the demolition committee for this one address, which is 507. With regards to Villa Wyman, I think we've had a very successful trajectory with them in terms of a working relationship. We've seen the project several times. They've been extremely adaptable and flexible, and I'm very grateful for your support in this process. And this project will be presented under a resolution at item 3.1. With regards to bylaws, so we're really at the end of my address here. The bylaw 753.1, so this is for the amendment, this is for the bylaw to support the sewage connection assistance program. Martin has suggested that we simplify the process and look to a different financial strategy, where rather than going to a loan bylaw, that we actually use our own, that we set aside a fund, an internal fund, and the rest of the process will be the same. It just makes it a lot easier for us in terms of administration, and will simplify the process as well for the property owners. And we're looking to encourage still as many people as possible to look to hook up. To my count, there would be 118 eligible properties. To date, there is approximately 36 that have been approached. Some have locked in, others less, but hopefully this process will encourage others to lock in. So you will see that at the start of some of the following sections, I will give the microphone to some of our directors, your presidents, I guess, of some of the committees, and you've been assigned to some of our committees, so to give us an update. So I won't go through that. That includes the SDC social. Here. Meetings with the mayor continue. So these are Saturdays, the first Saturday following these meetings. So Laura, reminder to put on the website, November 12th at Halco Cottage from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that's noon. 2 hours. We can speak about anything you'd like. My area of focus and major or main interest at this point is probably heritage and look and feel. But if you have any questions with regards to anything on this agenda or anything else you'd like to bring to me in person, it's a good time. To date, it can vary. There can be 6 people, there can be 8 people, and then there can be 1. So sometimes it's 2 hours with 1 person, and it's lovely. It's a great way to get to know someone. I know you'll talk about the Festival of Lights.
I will.
Want you?
Okay.
Me too. And otherwise, news with impact. This is with regards to, and I mentioned this last month, where Nicanco and the 2 other developers involved with Sandy Beach had won their case against the Ministry of Environment with regards to the certificate of authorization not having been renewed or having been discontinued. It's come to our attention that the Attorney General has filed an application to appeal this decision. And this request was to be presented in court on October 20th. We have not had any update to date, but it's something to keep, we'll be keeping our eye on. And I believe that by the middle of December, we'll know a little bit more on how this was received and whether there is any moving forward. So now I'm going to céder la parole à notre directeur, Farine, si vous avez quelques mots à partager avec nous sur votre expérience à ce jour. Quelques mots gentils.
Et bonsoir tout le monde. Merci Madame la mairesse, c'est un grand honneur que vous me faites ce soir. Écoutez, rapidement, je vais vous dire, j'étais à la retraite, Madame la mairesse communiquait avec moi rapidement pour savoir s'il y avait un intérêt pour venir relever un beau défi à Hudson. Et j'ai accepté. Mes objectifs premiers, c'est sûr que c'est de venir partager mon expérience, faire de l'analyse et implanter les bonnes pratiques, c'est-à-dire que ça fait une 20aine d'années que je suis à la direction générale dans différentes villes. Aujourd'hui, là, quand on se parle aujourd'hui, c'est sûr que mon premier mandat, c'est l'embauche d'un nouveau candidat. On a, comme le disait la mairesse, on a rencontré notre chasseur de tête la semaine dernière. On devrait avoir des candidats d'ici 5-6 semaines. Normalement, on devrait avoir quelqu'un en février, mais comme je dis, il va falloir prendre le temps parce que des candidats, il n'y en a pas beaucoup sur le marché. Mais je pense qu'on est bien accompagné. On a déjà un comité, 2 élus, le comité ressources humaines et Madame la mairesse vont faire partie du comité de sélection. Autre ça, on est dans les budget 2023. On est dans les programmes triennales d'investissement. Dans le fond, c'est les grands investissements qu'on va faire au niveau des infrastructures. Fait qu'on doit, dans les prochaines semaines, rencontrer le conseil et faire état des projets à venir et certains choix, effectivement, que le conseil va devoir faire. Écoutez, en plus de ça, bien, c'est sûr qu'on est en saison, l'hiver s'en vient, puis qu'on est en préparation au niveau des travaux publics, les équipements de neige, les feuilles à ramasser et tout. On se prépare, là. On a un automne qui est tiré. Mais à partir de la semaine prochaine, ça va être probablement ce qu'on trouve normalement, ça veut dire des moins, fait que la neige va commencer. Puis pour le reste, ben écoutez, on va partager au fur et à mesure. Quand j'ai commencé avec le conseil dans mes entrevues, ce que je disais, je travaille dans la transparence, puis avec tous les élus et les citoyens aussi. Pour moi, ma fonction première, c'est de m'assurer une équité entre les citoyens, que tout le monde soit traité de la même façon. Puis c'est ce que je vais inculquer au monde qui travaille avec moi. J'ai une belle équipe, je peux en parler déjà, ça va très bien, j'ai eu beaucoup de plaisir. Comme je disais à Mme la mairesse puis au conseil, les 2 premières semaines, après 2 ans de retraite, c'est un exercice particulier à faire. Il faut oublier d'où on vient, mais écoutez, c'est comme le reste, à force de faire de l'exercice, on devient meilleur. Fait que j'ai retrouvé, je dirais, un certain rythme de croisière. Fait que s'il y a quelque chose, comme je vous dis, comme disait Mme la mairesse, normalement, je devais faire 25 heures semaine pour assurer les services, mais je suis toujours disponible pour nos clients, nos services. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Martin. C'est un réel plaisir de travailler à vos côtés. J'apprends énormément, puis je pense qu'aussi les employés, la transition se fait vraiment bien. On voit des grands sourires et puis merci d'avoir relevé le défi en grand et en bien. On
Ça fait plaisir.
très good. All right, so also at this beginning of the meeting, I was assigned with a special assignment, but I'm thinking I might pass it on to Darren. Would you like to take on the recognition of the firefighters service?
Okay.
I love to put my counselors on the spot. They all know.
It's nice to have an audience.
It is.
We haven't had much of an audience these last few months, so welcome, everybody. I'm going to read it verbatim.
Yes, I would have done too.
Yes, so this is part of the word from the mayor, which she has deputized to me. Recognition of firefighters' service. On this November 7th, 2022, the town of Hudson and the administration of the Hudson Fire Department wish to recognize firefighters for their years of service. The following members received their bars in 2021. For the 5-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate the following firefighters: Liam Duma, James Lachance, and Adam Martin. The following members received their bars in 2022. For the 5-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate the following firefighters: Tim Hiscox, Brandon Malone, Bridget O'Driscoll, and Ryan Phillips. For the 10-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate firefighter, I better get this right, Salvatore Chiavione. Almost. Salvatore Chiavione. Schiavone.
That's why I had you read it.
For the 15-year service bar, we are proud to congratulate firefighter Lindsay Smith. Moving on, Governor General's Medal of Canada. The Fire Services Exemplary Service Medal is part of the Canadian Honor System and is awarded by the Office of the Governor General of Canada. It is awarded to firefighters who have completed 20 years of service, including at least 10 years in hazardous duty. Receiving this honor is a testament to the exemplary conduct and long and distinguished service in high-risk occupations. To honor their firefighters, fire departments present medals and a certificate of achievement signed by the Governor General of Canada. In this regard, Hudson Town Management is honored to present the Governor General's Medal to 2 officers of the fire department for their 20 years of distinguished service. Congratulations to Captain Chris Soto, as well as Lieutenant Eric Soto, for this accomplishment. Chris Soto made his debut with the Hudson Fire Department on April 1st, 2002. In July 2011, Chris was appointed as an operations lieutenant, followed by a promotion to captain in October 2015, the position he holds to this day. Eric Soto, and they are brothers, made his debut with the Hudson Fire Department on November 1st, 2002. In July 2011, Eric was appointed as an operations lieutenant, the position he holds to this day. Finally, Fire Chief Daniel LeBlanc would like to take this opportunity to thank all of his members for their efforts, dedication, and professionalism in serving the citizens of Hudson. And I'd like to take this opportunity to second that. So with that, I'll ask for everybody for another warm round of applause for all of the recipients tonight.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Mayor, if I may, before I give you back the head position, November 12th, there is a toy drive and a fundraiser taking place at the Alibi Barn. So it's November 12th. There's going to be a little bit of a Christmas bazaar, but and I know there's a few other Christmas bazaars around, and I should have done my homework and given them a mention as well. I know St. Thomas has one. I believe there's one at the center here. What day is that one on?
And the school has one. as
We'll
well.
have,
Yeah.
they're all over the place, but
Yeah.
November 12th strikes a chord because it is a toy drive and a fundraiser. And it strikes an even deeper chord because it is sponsored by KL Marketing and by Smith Real Estate. So in all transparency, this is KL Marketing sitting in front of you, our oldest daughter. So that's a cheesy plug.
No, no. Thank you so much, Darren.
And-
Est-ce qu'on a lu en français?
Je vais faire un petit résumé.
Tu vas faire-
Oui. Pour la reconnaissance des années de service des pompiers, de certains pompiers, en fait, la Ville d'Hudson et la direction du service incendie veulent rendre hommage aux pompiers en reconnaissance de leurs années de service. Les membres suivants ont reçu leur barrette en 2021. Donc, pour la barrette de service de 5 ans, Liam Dumas, James Lachance et Adam Martin. Et pour l'année 2022, la barrette de 5 ans de service, Tim Hiscox, Brandon Malone, Brigitte O'Driscoll et Ryan Phillip. Pour la barrette de service de 10 ans, Salvatore Schiavone,
Chivione.
No, what is it, Adrian? Come on. Ciccone? I don't know, sorry.
pour la barrette de 15 ans, Lindsay Smith. Et pardon, également, il y a la médaille du gouverneur général du Canada. Donc, cette médaille est attribuée aux pompiers qui ont accumulé 20 ans de service, dont au moins 10 ans dans des fonctions comportant des risques. À cet égard, la direction de la Ville d'Hudson a l'honneur de présenter la médaille du gouverneur à 2 officiers pour leurs 20 ans de service. Donc, félicitations au capitaine Chris Sodo ainsi qu'au lieutenant Éric Sodo pour cet accomplissement. Et en dernier lieu, le directeur incendie Daniel Leblanc souhaite prendre cette occasion pour remercier tous ses membres pour leur effort, dévouement et professionnalisme envers leur service aux citoyens d'Hudson.
All right. So moving on to item 1.1 on the agenda, the adoption of the agenda.
Mrs. Mayor, let the record show that I'll be recusing myself from item 3.4 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Then. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Lee Thompson moves, seconded by Peter Mage, that the agenda of the regular council meeting November 7th be and is hereby adopted as submitted. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to section 2, confirmation of minutes, item 2.1, confirmation of the October 4th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. This resolution is for the adoption of the minutes of the last council meeting. I need a mover and a seconder. Benoit Blais moves, seconded by Mark Ray. I'm doing it on terrible. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. No. It is carried unanimously. First question period is open. If you would like to come to the microphones, are there any questions online? We will alternate. How many people are online?
We have 21 people online right now.
Very nice. Mr. Burke.
Hello, is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, hi. Adrian Burke, District 6. Had a question about this decision. You said the Attorney General has decided to appeal the decision on the CA. But the town was never contacted, or you weren't asked if you wanted to intervene, or is the town?
I don't believe it is for us necessarily, because this is an action that is between Le Procureur Général and the owner, so we're not involved in this. For us, it's related to a separate situation, so it just means it puts our situation on hold.
Okay, because I know that sometimes another party can be impleaded, I think is the legal term, and
So they
even
could
asked
ask
to.
us if they want, but I believe it was heard, and then they probably have a period to come to a judgment, right, to a decision. And that's probably 30 days, which will bring us to middle of December.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
June Penny,
Yep.
you have the floor.
Hi, June.
Wow, that was so fast. I heard there were many people online and I'm already there.
Well, because we're going back and forth, June, we're doing one in the room and one online.
Okay, So first of all, it's great to see the progress happening on Main Road. I'd like a little bit of clarification, however, as to how we're going to manage the pedestrian traffic with cycling traffic, with dog walking traffic, and the rules I've heard about pedestrians walking on the road is that you're meant to be walking facing the traffic. So I'm hoping that we're not assigning one lane as we did on Bellevue for pedestrians, bicycles, strollers, dog walkers, because there's a lot of traffic on Main Road. So I'm just a little bit concerned about public safety. So could
Right.
you clarify the plan?
There were some choices that had to be made where the present road bed is 6 meters. And at this point, without incurring a long process with Ministry of Environment and not going for a boulevard feel, widening it to 7 meters gives us an extra meter. So where that line goes, at this point, we're aiming to do what already exists between, say, Mount Pleasant and Quarry Point, where there's that extra width that exists on the south side, because it gives a decent width where 2 people can walk side by side, or a person and a dog can walk side by side. If we split that and do half a meter on either side, it doesn't really make it that much safer. But it's just about painting the lines wherever. I mean, the conversation can continue. It won't change. We're not about to paint those lines, but honestly, for having walked between Mount Pleasant and Como Gardens quite a fair bit, it is nice. Even if you're walking in the wrong direction, it is nice to have a wider shoulder than to have just half a meter, especially in the winter when there's winter conditions and snowbanks and such.
Yeah, I understand. And that was my fear of that little stretch of road that everyone has become accustomed to as being their safe zone. But the amount of traffic, pedestrian traffic on Main Road, picture yourself, you're a mother walking a stroller, and all of a sudden there's like 2 dogs coming at your baby. There's another bicycle, or maybe a family of cyclists coming along. There's far too much pedestrian, cycling, dog walking traffic happening on Main Road that I'm really hoping that we don't assign one side of the road to being the main throughway. And I mean, I think we need to look at the laws of Quebec as well in terms of pedestrian walking. What are the official, regulations? Like, are we meant to be walking facing the traffic? That's my understanding, is that is how you're meant to walk when you're walking on the Main Road. And imagine somebody walking at night with a dog, and you've got your flashlight, you're identifying yourself on the road, but if all of a sudden the traffic is coming from behind you, they're not going to see your flashlight. I'm just saying there's a public safety issue I think that we need to address, and I would really appreciate if maybe more of the local citizens could be, our input could be requested instead of just engineers sitting behind a table and determining it for us. Because
I believe it's the engineers, June, that are making that decision. I mean, at this point, it's more out of common sense, but it doesn't mean that we have a closed mind to it. It could be one of those conversations at the circulation committee as well, I would think. And comparing with what other towns feel. But I hear you on what are the laws in terms of pedestrian safety. We could certainly look those up and put something online, or even put out a committee on that. I have my own understanding of what that is, but it needs to be verified and then communicated properly. I worry that if we are to do 1 meter on either side, we would have a much more extensive project and lose that look and feel of Main Road. And having just half a meter on either side, even within council, we've gone back and forth on this, and I don't think we're necessarily set in one way or the other. I'm looking at Mark, he's the one who started with this, and he was happy with 6 inches because he thought any inch would be better than nothing, right? Like you were adamant, which was
Exactly.
great. We got it here. So
No,
maybe
great that we've widened the road. It is wonderful that we've widened the road, but let's not repeat what happened on Bellevue, because every one of those bollards have been hit over the summer months. And I'm really hoping that we don't put those posts up along the entire length of Main Road, because that will definitely not be advantageous to our lovely scenic road that we have here in Hudson. And they're not, imagine you're a pedestrian, you're walking in that supposedly safe zone, and a vehicle goes by you with a trailer or whatever that's a little bit wider than it's meant to be, and it hits one of those posts. And I'm just worried about public safety. And I've seen what's happened on Bellevue, and I'm not impressed. And I'm hoping that another year goes by and we just don't put those posts back up, because it's more of a public safety issue than a safety. I don't think we're protecting the public. I think it's causing more of a hazard. And I would like to see Main Road just kept open. People can walk on each side of the road. The road is wider. It provides for, you know, a safer zone for everybody. And once you start limiting the zone, because as I was driving home tonight, I realized if you put posts up with a walking pedestrian lane, it's really going to limit the size of Main Road. So we haven't really widened it for traffic.
No, it's not wider for traffic, but I take this into consideration. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
And I'm sure we're not done speaking about where that line will be, but thank you very much.
Or
We're gonna
maybe
move
no
forward
line.
so that we can get on with our agenda, but I invite you to come and speak to me more on Saturday if you're available, and on how we can get the opinion of a majority of people, members of the public, because it might be an interesting project to open up and test out a couple of ideas.
Thanks for being open-minded.
All right, thank you, Jim. À votre tour.
Bonsoir.
Oui, et votre nom?
Hélène Ladouceur. Ma question concerne Sandy Beach. C'est une grande préoccupation, la protection de Sandy Beach. Et je suis loin d'être la seule là, qui est préoccupée par ça. J'ai entendu parler qu'il y avait une possibilité d'un référendum qui serait proposé pour faire l'achat de Sandy Beach par la ville. Je voulais savoir qu'est-ce qu'il en était, si c'était une option que vous envisagez encore.
On a plusieurs options sur la table. On n'a pas vraiment eu le temps de les développer nécessairement avec le budget, le directeur par intérim, plusieurs éléments. On en a certainement discuté entre nous. Il nous faut assigner une ressource pour aller faire pour aller justement voir quel type de subventions sont disponibles pour nous. À ce point-ci, c'est difficile d'en parler publiquement parce que, premièrement, nos séances sont enregistrées, mais aussi, si on veut être en position pour négocier, c'est difficile de négocier si on laisse sortir les différentes options qu'on a sur la table. Mais certainement, sachez que les membres du conseil sont extrêmement attachés également. Mais on sait aussi que nous avons des augmentations de taxes qui sont quand même assez substantielles qui s'en viennent. Donc, il faut qu'on fasse un choix éclairé et intelligent, ou peut-être qu'il y aura un équilibre à arriver justement avec entre la conservation, la proposition et qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait en faire. Donc, on ne lâche pas. Je pense que ce mois-ci, on devrait avoir une rencontre de travail avec les élus, peut-être en novembre. J'en mets beaucoup sur les bras de M. Hood. Mais je sais qu'on continue de travailler là-dessus. Il connaît nos questions, nos orientations. C'est une question de ressources.
Présentement, on recueille toutes les informations possibles. Bon, ben, c'est sûr que le fait que j'arrive en intérim, mais je suis en train de recueillir tout ce qui s'est fait depuis le début. On travaille avec Mélissa et nos procureurs pour préparer le dossier. Éventuellement, on va présenter au conseil les alternatives, les possibilités, une limite de ce qu'on va trouver, ce qui est réalisable. Puis après ça, le conseil aura le choix de décider. Mais c'est sûr que ça va être une réflexion qui demande du temps. Présentement, bon, on sait qu'on est, de toute façon, le dossier, la poursuite est en suspens. Tant et aussi longtemps que le ministère va pas sa réponse au niveau de la Cour supérieure pour aller en appel. Ça nous donne un peu de temps en même temps. Mais c'est un grand dossier puis plus large qu'on pense. C'est-à-dire qu'on dépouille au fur et à mesure qu'on avance. Et le fait, comme la mairesse le dit, que c'est un dossier qui est en litige, on est poursuivi par défaut à cause de ce qui s'est passé à date. C'est sûr que Mme la mairesse, les élus ne peuvent pas commenter de façon ouverte avec les citoyens, compte tenu de où est rendu le dossier présent.
D'accord, merci.
Merci à vous. Question online?
No questions.
All right, so we'll close that waiting line. Steve Farrell, did you want to come to the?
No.
There's no one left online. We'll close that one and you will be the last one for in the room.
Steve Farrell here.
Yes.
Quick look at the budget and the interim statements, if I
Yeah.
may.
Yes.
Without getting to detailed questions on the specific variances. We're already $1.1 million revenue above our annual forecast, our annual budget. Our expenses seem to be tracking well monthly. The only really large expense coming forward will be the snow clearing. So it looks like we're going to far exceed our budget in revenue, so we're going to have a nice surplus. Is there any projection or forecast that's been made on what the additional surplus is going to
I
be?
heard a number, but I'll let Monsieur, c'était 700, hein?
Oui,
c'est ça?
certainement, oui.
Non, je vous laisse y aller. Vous connaissez les chiffres plus adeptes que
Si
moi.
vous pouvez me laisser une semaine de plus, parce que on est en train effectivement là, de faire le YouTube à combien on devrait, mais je ne veux pas lancer n'importe comment, n'importe quoi, mais ça ne sera pas de la nature de l'année dernière. L'année dernière, je pense qu'on avait sorti à 3,7. Là.
Oui.
On ne parle pas des mêmes chiffres. Là. Les gens, effectivement, ça l'a diminué. Pourquoi? C'est que l'année dernière, il y avait, compte tenu de la COVID, puis je l'ai réalisé en travaillant le dossier, il y avait plusieurs activités qu'on n'avait pas réalisées. Fait que ça nous a amené à un surplus. Je cherchais le 3 millions, 2 millions, point X. Il y a plusieurs activités qu'on n'a pas réalisées. On a cumulé des sous, puis ces actions-là ont été faites cette année. Puis en plus de ça, ce que j'ai constaté lors du budget, c'est qu'on a aussi travaillé beaucoup sur l'entretien des vannes, des aussi au niveau des fiber hydrants. Puis il y a eu beaucoup de sous pour la mise à jour, l'entretien, pour le rinçage unidirectionnel. Fait que, si au moment où on pourra avoir une petite jasette, si vous voulez, vous et moi, là, vous m'appelez au bureau parce que dans le fond, j'ai fait les écarts. Je suis allé chercher les sources de chaque écart. Fait qu'on pourra s'avancer, mais oui, ça va bien. On est en respect du budget à plus ou moins quelques centaines de mille. Oui. Mais j'annonce quand même que, compte tenu qu'on a toutes réalisé nos activités en général, le surplus ne sera pas de la même nature que l'année dernière.
Mais par contre, ça va être plus gros que budgété.
Oui.
Et est-ce que vous pensez qu'il y a des projets qui vont plus vite que d'autres et des projets avec la ville, avec l'argent,
Ben, ça, c'est le conseil lorsqu'on va se rencontrer pour le PTI la semaine prochaine. On a une rencontre pour le programme triennal d'investissement, c'est pour tous les grands projets. Avec la nature du surplus, avec non affecté, le surplus prévu pour cette année, ce qui est déjà à l'agenda pour réaliser dans des phases futures, le conseil va devoir faire des choix. De toute façon, c'est clair.
Puis je pense qu'on a déjà alloué certains surplus pour
Oui.
les routes.
Oui, il y a des argents. Puis il y a une dette aussi qui est prévue de payer, là.
Déjà. Donc, on a quand même affecté, c'est sûr.
Puis on va travailler aussi avec le trésorier pour la présentation du budget le plus clair possible et le plus détaillé possible. On va vous arriver avec une bonne présentation.
He knew you were coming.
J'ai promis à M. Benoît et Mme la mairesse. On va faire quelque chose là, qui est simple de compréhension, mais qui est juste.
Now I'd like to just make a comment on the same subject that June brought up. I'm very much for having all the full meter on one side. I travel that road very often, frequently, almost 4 times a week. Okay, on bike or walking. And the meter will be, and I've spoken to a lot of people as well who live there, and they are all looking forward to having a dedicated 1 meter. Okay, to walk. Okay, some people are walking now, but they will if there's a dedicated 1 meter. on the side. That's all I'm saying.
No, I
But which way you're gonna go?
Les ingénieurs sont adaptés dans ce sens-là aussi au niveau de la
Ah,
sécurité, parce que
ouais.
le demi-mètre, c'est pas assez.
C'est pas assez.
C'est
pour une
pas
personne.
assez, mais ça existe quand même à des endroits.
Oui.
Le ministère le reconnaît aussi. Fait que ça peut être une décision qui va prendre le conseil, mais en général, on voit ce qui est sur même. Bon, on voit que c'est sur le même bord, mais c'est parce que la fondation aussi, ça va probablement venir clore le sujet, c'est que la fondation qu'on fait en excédent puis 7 mètres, 10 mètres supplémentaires,
Oui.
j'attends des nouvelles, mais normalement, il était conçu pour une piste pour marcher et non pour recevoir des véhicules. Fait que le fait de demi-demi, on pourrait
Ça, c'est important, le point, parce que sur Bellevue, ils ont fait ça, mais j'avais demandé la même question, ça fait 2 mois, 3 mois. La réponse du conseil de la mairesse m'avait dit que cette section de 1 mètre, ça va être assez solide pour les camions. Ça va
C'est
être
ce qu'on
construit.
pensait. Oui, c'est ce qu'on pensait aussi.
C'est
Mais-
ce que j'ai demandé dans
Ouais.
le fond à notre ingénieur vendredi, je n'ai pas eu la réponse. Mais j'ai circulé, je suis allé voir souvent le travail, et effectivement, la profondeur était quand même importante au niveau de la fondation.
Oui.
En général, on voyait au moins du 24, peut-être un peu plus. Je pense qu'effectivement, la fondation va pouvoir résister autant, mais est-ce pas sûr qu'elle était designée dans ce sens-là.
Ouais.
Puis je vais être sûr de ne pas parler à travers mon chapeau, fait que je vais attendre la réponse pour
Ben,
voir si on
oui, exactement. Mais
on peut jouer à gauche ou à droite.
c'est juste important parce qu'on sait que si la fondation n'est pas assez bonne pour les camions,
Mhm.
on on sait que certains camions vont aller sur la côte mer.
Pour
Il y a-
créer, exemple,
Oui, livrer pour vidange, pourquoi?
Mhm.
Sûrement en 5 ans, là, ça ne sera plus la même chose. Fait que c'est important de dépenser un petit peu plus maintenant.
Oui.
Pour être sûr que la fondation est solide, assez solide pour les camions.
Oui, je vais vous revenir avec
That's
ça. On attend la réponse.
C'est bon.
Merci.
Merci.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, last question.
My name is Elizabeth Buchanan.
Yes.
Last month I presented a poster showing 121 species. that
I believe it's in his office.
Yes,
huh?
it's my office, yeah. Every day I show.
I will have an updated version, like still finding.
It's a pleasure to receive your update.
I guess I'm looking for follow-up on my follow-up question from last month, which was about the potential damage and contamination to the already protected marsh area from construction in the Sandy Beach area. And I think there was some interest, I think you did put some notes about that. And I didn't get much detail at that time, but there is a stream that runs right next to the developer property line that does feed that marshy area. And that's actually where the apartment buildings are going. So my concern is that a massive backfill, possibly digging down, the parking, or whatever their plan is. There is a stream right there, like almost right on the property. So that's why I can.
The Vivry, yeah. We haven't gone into the details of that, but I would expect that through environmental controls, there's ways through construction practices. I know that in leadership and energy, design their practices of soil retention and careful applications. We know that Hydro-Quebec, for example, is using those cautious measures on Léger with regards to the wetlands. So we would need to ask all builders to use those practices for construction in situations of interest.
So there's no danger that the water source for the marshes would be cut off, because I think that is stream. is
Well, there's
one
a
of the-
buffer area on the Vivry already that is in the law, just any plain law in Quebec. I think it's 10 meters. We would like to make that better, but in this case, there is already a protection area.
To me, that doesn't sound like a lot of things.
So it's 30 feet. It's already pretty decent.
And I actually do think that the stream does originate underground from the side of the.
The stream starts way up. I mean, if we're talking about the Vivry, it starts.
No, not no, I'm sorry. It's
beg your
the
pardon?
western end. It's the western end of the Sandy Beach Construction Project. It's actually where the apartment buildings are going. And just west of that, it's a stream. So I'm sorry. I'm talking-
No, I see it. Yeah, I see which one you mean.
Yeah. And so it does run, with quite a bit of water in it now. I don't know if it will be as visible in the winter. And I'm not sure, it appears, from the development perspective. And so once they start building in the country, what impact it's going to have on the marsh area. So,
You do not have the answer to your
no,
question.
but that's why I was hoping that there would be session done to, try and predict what contamination, what impact this is going to have on an already protected area. And that's, I think, part of what's the charm, the bird and the marshlands and the water. If we start cutting off the sources of water, I don't think I think you're going to lose very valuable natural. And I know it's already protected, but I also think we'll protect the water. Okay.
Lots to think about. All right, section 3. So section 3 is urban planning and environment. So I'll start with the environment section and then so that we can fold into the since we start with that. So Mark, would you like to give an update on the environment committee?
Yes, I would.
Please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. So with the Environment Committee, we've been meeting regularly once a month for the last few months since we started the committee. And the first mandate, of course, is to make recommendations to council on a number of issues as council gives the Environment Committee the issues to look into. Then the committee does their work to research and make the final recommendation. So the first recommendation that the Environment Committee has made to council is to become members of the bird-friendly city. And so little bit of history. Of course, we have the nichoir, which we're very proud to have in our territory, and the EC felt that, we call it the EC, Environment Committee for short, felt that it made sense as a lead recommendation to celebrate birds and their habitats by signing on to this initiative by Nature Canada. So fingers crossed that passes later this evening. And this is also in complement to a resolution that was signed in September of 2021 by the previous council, which was a monarch-friendly city. And so there's several efforts that have been made that the administrative staff here at the town felt strongly about. So we want to make sure that we're following what they started with the monarch-friendly city, as well as signing on to the bird friendly city. So some of the things, it's by Nature Canada, this is initiative from them, and the 3 main things to work on are human caused or human activity caused deaths of birds, protecting habitat, and education around the benefits of birds and so on. So some of the the largest causes of bird deaths are of course cats are the big one in Canada. They're responsible for 200 million deaths of birds. A distant second is collisions with windows, and there's a whole list of items that we can do as a town to help birds, including putting indicators on windows, to prevent those collisions, spading and neutering cats and so on, keeping the feral cat population down, pesticide reduction and so on. So anyway, so that's the sort of our lead recommendation, which the EC is very happy about. And just to keep you up to date, some of the other topics we're working on are waste management. Large part of that will be, redirecting our garbage from landfills into eco center recycling, and the big one, composting. Other ones are the sewage, which is a complex issue, sorting out
how we deal with making sure our septic systems are fully functional and people are on the sewer systems and whatever expansions may or may not happen. And then also communication within the town website and stuff for citizens to see what we're up to and what work we're doing on. And then, so those are the topics we're working on now. And then our list for the next topics to come up as we sort out the ones we have on our plate now. Water consumption is a big issue. Pesticides, also part of the bird-friendly city. Noise pollution and complaints, wetland rehabilitation, another one for bird-friendly cities. Light pollution, another one for bird-friendly cities, but we are a step ahead with all our LED lights, so that's a step in the right direction. And so those are the topics on our roster.
Did we not just recently receive our Monarch certification?
Yes. Yeah, I believe.
I mentioned that.
I don't really know the details.
Well, it came in, the Monarch, I think Laura might be familiar. It was received just a couple weeks ago, right?
So that's an initiative that council last term had started. And some of the elements, I think there were some planting beds at
Yes.
Jack Layton
Yeah.
and the longer grass at Thompson Park. And were there other?
No, those were the big ones, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So yes, we had the confirmation this month that had gone through. Thank you. All right, so now you have several. You have TPAC, but you have SDC, anything like.
Anything.
Lights.
Oh, boy, it's dangerous. So I guess we start with the urban planning, maybe?
Sure.
Okay, so item 3.1, 517 Main. So this is the Villa Wyman. So we've seen this project come through a few times. TPAC reviewed it at the last meeting, October 11th, and I'm happy to report that the recommendation by majority was to approve this permit request with a recommendation that the 2 brick columns on either side of the main entrance get shortened to not exceed the height of the ground floor if possible.
3.1 517 Main. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour la construction d'une résidence pour personnes âgées, donc ce qu'on appelle Villa Wyman. Le CCU s'est rencontré et la recommandation est majoritaire à l'effet d'approuver la demande de permis avec la recommandation suivante, soit que les colonnes de briques à l'entrée principale ne dépassent pas la hauteur du rez-de-chaussée. Donc, la résolution est d'approuver en ce sens-là avec cette recommandation.
So I will need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
With explanation, please.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. And I'll pass these notes on to Melissa for the record, please. First off, I wish to declare that I am not against this project. Please understand that. Specifically the part of the community that it is meant to serve. There is clearly a need, and I respect that. I cast my vote against the design of the proposed building, and as a component of that design, how it fits or integrates into the site and the neighborhood. Rather, how it does not integrate. And I was vocal about that in our meetings. I also acknowledge that this new council is only passing judgment on the current and likely final design. This project was promoted and passed in concept by previous councils, of which I was not part of. However, I feel, and this is purely, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, in reference to any other member of council, that each administration should ensure what's best for the short and long term of the community as a whole, and sometimes insist on revisiting the criteria that was applied and send it back to the drawing board in part and in whole or in whole. Permitting this building to be literally shoehorned into a tree-filled corner next to residential properties I feel will result in a loss of enjoyment for those homes and families, a loss of privacy, subject the adjacent residential properties to higher noise levels from additional traffic,
deliveries, industrial size garbage pickups, because there will be a cafeteria serving size kitchen producing higher quantities of refuse in that facility. And visitors, not only on Sunday mornings as they were accustomed to for church services. Its location is problematic for the targeted limited mobility occupants, given the long slope from Main Road to the front door of the building. As this project progresses, the public will judge for themselves as to whether it has the look and feel of what we want Hudson to look and feel like. I want it on record that as a councillor, I do not wish to be associated with this project in its proposed location or design, but I am not against your efforts.
Thank you.
In my case, Doug did a good summary. In my case, it's the integration of the project and the design.
Thank you. So I believe this resolution has been carried by majority. You have the go-ahead to present the project for request for construction.
Madam Mayor, if I could just speak very briefly.
They asked me earlier. And
Kent Chown, Secretary of the Board of Villa Wyman. And this evening, the board would like, who is largely assembled here this evening, would like to thank the Mayor of Hudson and the Town Council of Hudson for the support for this project. TPAC as well for making the necessary steps for the realization of this. This is an important moment. I think it was 9 years and 2 months ago that the first words of a dream of turning an underused parking lot into a resource for the community was first spoken out loud. And this evening, a major step has been made in the realization of that project for the benefit of the community. And that's thanks to all three levels of government, the town of Hudson, province of Quebec, and the country of Canada, all coming together to work together with the board to make this a possibility for the community. Thank you very much.
thank you. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 3.2.
So item 3.2 is 169 Main. It's an addition to a home on Main Road. Pretty straightforward. TPAC reviewed the request on October 11th. The recommendation is unanimous to approve the permit request.
3.2, 169 Main. Il s'agit d'une demande de permis pour un agrandissement au 169 Main. La recommandation du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis. Donc, la résolution est en ce sens.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. Benoit is moving, Benoit Blaine moving, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3.
3.3 is 77 Pine. So major renovations. This has come back a few times for the siding on the home and the rear portion of the roof to add a dormer. So TPAC reviewed it at the last meeting as well, and the recommendation was by majority to approve the permit request.
So I will need a mover.
En
and a seconder.
français.
En français, pardon.
3.3, 77 Pine, demande de permis pour rénovation majeure. La recommandation du CCU est majoritaire pour l'approbation du PIA. Donc, la résolution est d'approuver la demande de permis.
Merci, Melissa. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Peter Mage moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Now, Councillor Darren Legault recuses himself at just a minute, 7:44,
8.
7:48.
8.
PM, thank you. Yes,
I'd like clarification as to why Councillor Legault feels he needs to recuse himself.
Madame Legault.
Monsieur Legault a mentionné que sa fille avait des relations d'affaires ou de travail avec le demandeur du permis, donc pour éviter toute apparence de conflit d'intérêts qui pourrait laisser porter à croire qu'il y a certains liens qui pourraient influencer son vote, il souhaite se recuser.
Okay, I understand that when everybody lives in the same household, but to be in when you don't.
Mrs. Mayor, this is not a debate.
But
I'm allowed to recuse myself.
I'm sorry.
I'm allowed to recuse myself.
No, order.
Juste un instant, là. On va clarifier la chose. Lorsqu'on donne des recommandations, on nous a demandé à l'administration de recommander. L'élu nous a demandé une recommandation. Qu'est-ce que lui devait faire? On s'est penché sur la question. Notre avocate a vérifié. Puis, en toute prudence, nous avons conseillé à notre conseiller, excusez-moi là 2 fois, mais on a conseillé tout simplement qu'il se retire. C'est plus simple. Il n'y a pas d'apparence, parce que l'apparence, ça fait souvent plus de dégâts que le conflit lui-même. On est tout simplement là, c'est notre recommandation, puis on la maintient.
Merci. Et c'est son choix.
Et c'est le choix
Et
de l'élu ici, là, parce qu'il n'est pas obligé de suivre notre recommandation. Nous, on fait simplement qu'on réponde en fond aux demandes de notre conseil.
Merci beaucoup. So moving on with item 3.4.
So 3.4 is a lot in the Willowbrook project. It's lot 6320541. So it's 185 Main. So it's for a new single-family construction. So when it doesn't fall into the pre-approved plans, it comes to TPAC. So TPAC reviewed this custom plan and was unanimous in the recommendation to refuse the permit request. The summary of the criteria not respected, justifying the refusal includes the architectural elements, respecting the architectural character of the building, the exterior finish materials in harmony with the architecture of the building, and that their number be reduced to a minimum. The architectural characteristics of the various buildings in a given project are coherent in order to create consistency. Avoiding large uniform walls using divisions in the various facade plans and by insetting or projecting architectural components, prioritizing durable construction techniques, and the templates for every main building must evolve gradually from those of the neighboring zones.
Thank you.
3.4, 185 Main, nouvelle construction unifamiliale. Donc, une demande de permis a été reçue pour ce type de construction. La recommandation du CCU est unanime à l'effet de refuser la demande de permis en raison des critères non rencontrés qui sont les suivants. Les éléments architecturaux devraient respecter le caractère architectural. Les matériaux de revêtement extérieur cadrent bien avec l'architecture du bâtiment et leur nombre devrait être réduit au minimum. Les caractéristiques architecturales des bâtiments devraient être cohérents afin de créer une homogénéité. Éviter les grands murs uniformes en proposant des ruptures dans les plans des différentes façades et par l'ajout d'éléments architecturaux en retrait ou en saillie. Privilégier des techniques de construction durable et tous les bâtiments principaux devraient être implantés de façon à ce que leur gabarit évolue de façon graduelle par rapport aux bâtiments des zones voisines. Donc, la résolution vise à refuser le PIA.
So this resolution is for the refusal of the state request. So I will need a mover, Mark Gray, and seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see none. It is carried unanimously. And Councillor Darren Legault returns to his seat at 8:42. All right, moving on to item 3.5.
So item 3.5 is 757 Main. It's an addition within the space. So TPAC reviewed the plans and was unanimous in the recommendation to refuse the permit request. The summary of the criteria not fulfilled justifying the refusal includes that the architectural elements, roof, cornices, doors, windows, etc., do not respect the architectural character of the building. The exterior finished materials are in harmony with the architecture of the building and that their number be reduced to a minimum.
3.5, 757 Main, considérant qu'une demande de permis pour un agrandissement a été reçue relativement au 757 Main, le comité consultatif a traité le dossier et sa recommandation est unanime pour le refus du PIA compte tenu des critères suivants qui sont non rencontrés. Donc, que les éléments architecturaux respectent le caractère architectural du bâtiment et que les matériaux de revêtement extérieur cadrent bien avec l'architecture et que leur nombre soit réduit au minimum. La résolution vise à refuser la demande de permis.
I will need a mover and a seconder for the refusal of this request. Peter Mate moving, seconded by Benoit Blais. For the refusal of the state request for address 757 Main. Thank you. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to item 3.6.
3.6 is 187 Main. So this is for the addition of an accessory building, basically a shed. The request was received. We looked at it on the October 11th meeting and unanimous recommendation to approve the permit request.
3.6, 187 Main, il s'agit d'une demande pour un bâtiment accessoire. La recommandation du CCU est unanime pour l'approbation du PIA. Donc, la résolution va en ce sens.
Thank you. This is a resolution for the approval of a spate request. I need a mover and a seconder. So Peter Mate moving, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.7. This is for the request to appeal the decision of the demolition committee at 570 Main. If you would like to stand.
Bonsoir.
On peut le faire en français si vous voulez, il n'y a pas de
Comme vous
problème.
voulez, je peux être dans les deux langues, ça me fait plaisir
C'est pour
d'être ici parmi vous ce soir. Mon nom est Armand Poupard, je suis l'avocat de monsieur, le propriétaire, monsieur Sidani. C'est pas un contentieux ici, c'est pas un litige. Je veux seulement m'assurer d'un certain formalisme de la présentation. Essentiellement, la résolution du comité de démolition du mois de septembre concluait au rejet de la demande de permis de démolition pour deux motifs. Le premier étant que le bâtiment avait certaines qualités architecturales à protéger ou un style architectural à protéger. Et le deuxième, c'était que le bâtiment pouvait être rénové à coût raisonnable. Alors, on vous a produit des documents. Je suis convaincu que vous les avez consultés et regardés. D'abord, quant au style architectural, on a déposé un rapport d'architecte qui démontre que le bâtiment ne contient ou ne comprend aucun style ou aucune caractéristique architecturale particulière propre à une époque, propre à un style, propre à une méthode de construction. Le toit est en bardeau d'asphalte, le paramètre extérieur est en déclin d'aluminium. Les ouvertures sont soit, les portes ou fenêtres sont soit en acier, soit en PVC. Et l'état général du bâtiment révèle que c'est probablement un ancien chalet ou une maison qui a été construite par son propriétaire à une époque pour satisfaire les besoins de sa famille, mais que d'aucune façon, l'architecte dont les services ont été retenus n'a pu constater quelque style architectural ou quelques représentations architecturale ou de construction d'une époque. Donc, ce n'est pas un bâtiment patrimonial qui a une valeur patrimoniale, qui a une valeur esthétique objective. Le deuxième point, c'est que les coûts de construction ou les coûts, pardon, de rénovation ont été évalués et chiffrés. On parle de au moins 200 000 pour réparer, remplacer le toit, les fondations, l'électricité, la plomberie, le parement extérieur, etc., etc. Ce qui nous apparaît être des sommes qui sont somptuaires et mal avisées de dépenser sur un bâtiment de cette valeur-là ou de cette nature-là. Alors, on considère que ces informations-là, peut-être n'avaient pas été fournies en entier au comité de démolition, mais on vous demande de les considérer parce que la décision, même si elle est discrétionnaire de votre part, ça ne peut pas non plus être arbitraire. Il y a des critères qui sont que la Ville a adoptés dans son règlement sur les démolitions, des critères d'évaluation des projets. Et comme je vous l'ai soumis, document à l'appui, je pense que c'est un bâtiment qui n'a pas une valeur particulière, de sorte que son remplacement par un projet que vous avez accepté, un projet qui s'intègre dans le milieu villageois, qui est conforme aux attentes très sévères, très strictes et très sérieuses de votre règlement sur les PIA, va garantir une intégration architecturale harmonieuse et qui, quant à nous, va donner un nouvel... La maison va participer à l'amélioration de la rue Maine et du cadre bâti du secteur en se débarrassant ou en remplaçant le bâtiment qui a atteint sa limite utile d'usage et d'occupation. Alors, c'est ce qu'on vous demande de considérer. Monsieur Sidali voudrait s'adresser à vous.
Merci.
Bonsoir, Madame la mairesse. Bonsoir, messieurs les conseillers. Donc, Maître Coupard a bien résumé la situation. Ce que j'aimerais dire, c'est que je suis bien attaché à Hudson. Ça fait 4 générations de ma famille qui habite au 570 rue Maine. Ma grand-mère habitait là en premier, ensuite ma tante, maintenant moi et mes 4 enfants qui grandissent. Le plus vieux va avoir 14 ans la semaine prochaine, le deuxième a 10 ans, les jumelles ont 8 ans maintenant. La maison est petite, elle respecte pas l'environnement, elle coûte très cher à chauffer. Elle ne peut pas être rénovée à bas coût. Ici, on la rénovait, le montant, en fait, est 308 000 pour juste la mettre au code. Et là, on ne l'a pas agrandi encore. Donc, elle ne se rénove pas facilement. Et donc, en fait, on vous demande de reconsidérer la décision qui avait été portée au niveau on avait travaillé fort pour l'intégrer le plus possible avec les autres bâtiments aux alentours. C'est très important pour nous que le cachet soit respecté. C'est tout à notre avantage qu'il le soit aussi. Et donc, voilà, c'est simplement pour vous dire, on se croise dans les rues. Je vis ici, je me suis fait beaucoup d'amis ici. On veut s'établir à Hudson. J'ai besoin de pouvoir offrir à ma famille un environnement qui est assez grand pour qu'il puisse évoluer puis qui est aussi... qui est sain, qui est sécuritaire, qui est respectueux de l'environnement. Donc, voilà, c'est tout.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Sidani. Donc, would you like to read it or would you like me to read it?
So you can go ahead.
Okay. So this resolution is whereas the decision of the demolition committee at its meeting held on August 30th of 2022 concerning the building located at 570 Main refused the demolition, whereas the owner of the building has appealed the decision of the demolition committee, whereas bylaw 652-215, concerning demolition, which determines the elements to be considered in the evaluation of the request, whereas the documents submitted in support of the demolition request, whereas the council has given the applicant an opportunity to be heard at the public meeting regarding his request for appeal before rendering its decision. Whereas council's decision regarding this demolition request must be guided by the public interest and the interest of the parties. Whereas council's ruling on an appeal of a decision of the demolition committee may confirm the decision of the committee or may make any decision that the committee should have made. Considering the transitional measures applicable under the Act, to amend the Cultural Heritage Act and other legislative provisions. This resolution is that the decision of the Demolition Committee of August 30th, 2022 be modified. That council approves the application for the demolition of the building located at 570 Main as it deems appropriate the demolition given the public interest and the interest of the parties. And that council approves the preliminary program for the reutilization of the vacated land proposed by the applicants. And that the town notify the Ministry of Culture and Communications of its intention, accompanied by any information or document required by the ministry at least 90 days before the issuance of the certificate of authorizations to demolish.
Considérant la décision du comité de démolition lors de la séance tenue le 30 août 2022 qui refusait la démolition du 570 Main, considérant que le propriétaire de l'immeuble a interjeté appel de cette décision, considérant le règlement 652 qui détermine les éléments à prendre en considération dans l'évaluation de la demande, considérant les documents déposés au soutien par le demandeur, considérant que le conseil a laissé l'opportunité au demandeur de se faire entendre au cours de la présente séance, considérant que la décision du conseil quant à cette demande doit être guidée par l'intérêt public et l'intérêt des parties, considérant que le conseil statuant sur l'appel d'une décision du comité de démolition peut confirmer ou rendre toute décision que celui-ci aurait dû prendre, et considérant les mesures transitoires applicables, la résolution vise à modifier la décision rendue par le comité de démolition, à accorder la demande de démolition puisque le conseil est convaincu de l'opportunité de la démolition en tenant compte de l'intérêt public et de l'intérêt des parties, et que le conseil approuve le programme préliminaire de réutilisation des sols dégagés et en notifie sa décision au ministre de la Culture au moins 90 jours avant l'émission du certificat d'autorisation.
I will need a mover and a seconder, so it is moved by Reed Thompson. And is it
Peter going over there.
seconded by Peter, my goodness, Peter Nate. I don't have eyes here. on the first side.
He was up before.
All right. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. And there are objections. There are 3. It is even, so I will break the tie and I will vote in favor of the demolition. So this resolution has passed. Moving on to item 3.8. We never did figure out. Are you doing that at the end? of your business? Okay. So item 3.8, filming permit authorization to Incendo Productions. Whereas a permit request for the shooting of a film was received by the town, whereas a production firm requires an intermittent road closure of Quarry Point. Whereas major road repairs are being carried out on Main Road in this sector and a street closure is already in progress. Whereas council deems it inappropriate in the circumstances to grant the request, this resolution is to refuse the filming schedule proposed by Incendo Productions and to maintain the hours provided for in bylaw 364. And so this resolution is to refuse the request for the street closure.
3.8, autorisation pour un tournage de film. Une demande de permis de tournage a été reçue et nécessite la fermeture de la rue Quarry Point en plus d'heures différentes que celles qui sont autorisées, considérant qu'il y a des travaux majeurs de réfection de la chaussée qui sont en même temps effectués sur la rue même dans ce secteur-là et qu'une fermeture de rue importante est déjà en cours. Le conseil juge inopportun dans les circonstances d'accorder la demande. Donc, la résolution vise à refuser l'horaire proposé et de maintenir les heures de tournage prévues au règlement 364, ainsi que de refuser la demande de fermeture de rue.
I will need a mover and a seconder. Mark Gray moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.9, do you want to read that one? It's for application for certification of a bird-friendly city for the town of Hudson. Mark?
Yeah, I'll dig it up here.
I'm trying to keep him awake.
All right, so whereas birds throughout Canada and North America have experienced dramatic declines due to habitat loss, window strikes, climate change, and the spread of diseases and invasive species with serious implications for the future health of our ecosystems. Whereas Nature Canada has developed a certification standard to award eligible cities with bird-friendly city certification, recognizing and celebrating their contribution to saving birds in their municipalities. Whereas the certification standard is a tool that allows for an independent assessment of key issues by establishing benchmarks and allowing for measurement of progress over time and in comparison with other cities. Whereas the recommendation of this project to the Environment Committee and the town obtained certification as a bird-friendly city. Whereas the town acknowledges that birds play an essential role in maintaining healthy and resilient ecosystems in our communities and our planet and wishes to make a difference. Whereas the town of Hudson wishes to initiate the process of obtaining certification as a bird-friendly city, whereas Nature Canada has as a requirement in their program that the municipal council adopt a resolution in favor of becoming a bird-friendly city. And I'll just throw in a little add-on. This is nicely researched and written. Thank you. And I believe we're the 18th city in Canada, Kitchener being the last in September. I think.
So the resolution is that the town of Hudson support the efforts of Nature Canada and develop its potential to become a certified city, and that the Environment Committee be designated as the bird team to drive the project forward and to submit the certification application. Oui, juste un résumé, pas besoin d'analyser comment.
Parfait. 3.9 concernant la démarche pour l'obtention d'une certification comme ville amie des oiseaux. En fait, Nature Canada a développé une norme de certification pour accorder aux villes la certification de ville amie des oiseaux pour reconnaître et célébrer leur contribution à sauver les oiseaux dans leur municipalité. C'est une recommandation du comité environnement de vouloir obtenir cette certification-là. Donc, la Ville reconnaît effectivement que les oiseaux jouent un rôle essentiel dans le maintien d'écosystèmes sains, puis souhaite faire une différence. Donc, la résolution vise à soutenir les efforts de Nature Canada et développer le potentiel afin de devenir une ville amie des oiseaux certifiée et que le comité d'environnement soit désigné à titre d'équipe ville amie des oiseaux pour faire avancer le projet et soumettre la demande de certification.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. So Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. I see none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.10, tabling of a monthly report for permits issued in September of 2022. So this is simply the tabling of the permits that were issued. Moving on to section 4, administration and conseil.
3.10, c'est le dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis pour le mois de septembre 2022.
Donc, moving on to section 4, administration and finance, item 4.1, approval of disbursements for October of 2022. Whereas council has examined the disbursements made and to be made for accounts payable as of October 27th of 2022. The subtotal for the payments in total, so this includes checks, canceled checks, direct debits, canceled direct debits, is a total of $619,594.52. There are 3 payrolls during this period for a total for accounts paid of $1,017,833.10.
4.1, c'est l'approbation des paiements pour le mois d'octobre 2022, donc en date du 27 octobre. Le sous-total des paiements s'élevait à 619 594,52 $, montant auquel on ajoute 3 périodes de paye, ce qui amène un total des comptes payés à 1 017 883,10 $.
Les zéros, des chiffres, need a mover and a seconder. Benoit Blaine moving, seconded Mark Gray. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, appropriation of working capital funds for capital projects in the 2022 3-year capital expenses program. for $60,000, whereas purchases were made during the fiscal year and authorized by purchase orders, whereas some of the projects are still in progress, whereas the financing from the working capital fund as provided for in the 3-year capital expenses programs, the PTI, must be authorized by a council resolution. This resolution is to authorize the allocation of the working capital fund for an amount of $60,000 to the various investment projects.
4.2, affectation du fonds de roulement pour les projets d'investissement inscrits au PTI 2022. Donc, certains achats ont été effectués tout au long de l'année et autorisés par monde de commande. Et certains de ces projets sont toujours en cours. Le financement par le fonds de roulement tel que prévu, des projets tels que prévu au PTI doit être autorisé par une résolution du conseil. Donc, la résolution vise à affecter un montant de 60 000 du fonds de roulement à ces différents projets d'investissement-là.
Merci beaucoup. I will need a mover and a seconder. Benoit Blais moving, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimous. Item 4.3, tabling of the comparative statements as of September 30th of 2022. In accordance with the section 105.4 of the Cities and Towns Act, Council acknowledges the tabling of comparative statements by the treasurer. It compares the current revenues and expenditures as of September 30th of 2022 and those of the previous fiscal year of the same corresponding period, as well as those provided for in the budget.
4.3, il s'agit du dépôt des états comparatifs en date du 30 septembre 2022. Donc, le conseil prend acte du dépôt de ces états financiers qui comparent les revenus et dépenses de l'exercice courant réalisé jusqu'au 30 septembre, ainsi que ceux de l'exercice précédent qui ont été réalisés au cours de la même période et également au budget de l'année en cours.
Moving on to section 5, town clerk. So item 5.1, Village Theatre West Incorporated, request for property tax exemption with the Quebec Municipal Commission. Considering the Village Theatre West Inc. application for property tax exemption. This resolution is that the town of Hudson declares that it has no objection to the request for exemption from taxes filed for the organization Village Theatre West Inc. at the Commission municipale du Québec.
5.1, Théâtre Village Ouest Inc. demande d'exemption de taxes foncières auprès de la Commission municipale du Québec. Donc, une demande de renouvellement, en fait, de la reconnaissance que détient le Théâtre Village de l'Ouest a été formulée à la commission municipale. Donc, la résolution vise à déclarer que la ville d'Hudson n'a aucune objection à ce que cette demande déposée à la commission municipale suive son cours.
We'll need a mover and a seconder. So moved by Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimous. Item 5.2. 2023 calendar of council meetings. Council holds regular meetings at least once a month. This resolution is that the schedule of 2023 regular council meetings be determined as follows. So there's a long list of them, but they're essentially the first Monday of every month except for January 9th.
No, except Tuesday, September 5th.
So Tuesday, September 5th, which follows Labor Day, all the others except for the first for Monday in January, which will be Monday, January.
Ah, yes.
The others
Okay.
are all the first Monday of each.
Oui, oui, oui.
Yes.
5.2, c'est le calendrier de l'année 2023 des séances du conseil. Donc, le conseil tient des séances ordinaires au moins une fois par mois. Donc, la résolution vise à établir ce calendrier-là qui se liste généralement au premier lundi de chaque mois, excepté en janvier, ce sera le deuxième lundi du mois et en septembre, ce sera un mardi qui suit le premier lundi, qui est un jour férié.
Seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried. Item 5.3, appointment of a mandatory for right termination. for le mandataire for l'Office québécois de la langue française, whereas there is a requirement to name a mandatory for the Office québécois de la langue française, l'OQLF. And this is essentially to replace the person that had previously been designated who no longer works at the town. So this resolution is to appoint the town clerk as representative to the OQLF for the town.
5.3, donc c'est la nomination d'un mandataire pour l'Office québécois de la langue française. Donc, il est nécessaire que la ville ait un mandataire désigné auprès de l'OQLF. Donc, il y a lieu de remplacer la personne qui était désignée puisqu'elle ne travaille plus ici. Donc, la résolution vise à désigner la greffière, donc moi-même, à titre de mandataire au sein de l'OQLF pour signer et transmettre tous les documents à l'organisme.
May I have a mover and a seconder for this? Darren Legault moving, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? I think it was a French thing, didn't want to.
Oh, Peter put his hand up before.
Okay, good. All right, so it went Darren Legault and Peter Mate. And are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.4, renewal of the membership to the Union des municipalités du Québec. Whereas at this time of the year, the town must pay for its membership renewal fee for the Union des municipalités du Québec, the UMQ, as well as for the services for the Carrefour du Capital Humain program. This resolution is to renew the town's membership and to approve payment in the amount of $7,625.09 before taxes.
5.4, renouvellement d'adhésion à l'Union des municipalités du Québec. Donc, il s'agit de notre renouvellement à notre adhésion pour l'année 2023 et pour les services offerts par l'UMQ pour le volet Carrefour Capital Humain. Donc, la résolution vise à renouveler l'adhésion et approuver le paiement au montant de 7 625,09 avant taxe.
I have a mover and a seconder, Darren Legault moving, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.5, appointments of pro-mayor from November 2022. Considering section 56 of the Cities and Towns Act, this resolution is that Councillor Darren Legault be appointed pro-mayor for a period of 6 months starting November 15th, 2022.
5.5, nomination d'un maire suppléant. Donc, la résolution vise à désigner le conseiller Darren Legault à titre de maire suppléant pour une période de 6 mois à compter du 15 novembre 2022.
Thompson and the seconder, Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. I see none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to section 6, human resources. Item 6.1, insurance renewal for accidental death or dismemberment policy, so AD&D. Whereas the accident insurance policy for the firefighter employees expires on December 31st of 2023, this resolution is to renew the firefighters' accident insurance contract with the FTM Assurance for a total of $1,395.20 for the coverage period of December 31st, 2022 to December 31st of 2023.
6.1, renouvellement de la police d'assurance décès ou mutilation accidentelle. Donc, considérant que la police d'assurance accident pour les employés pompiers vient à échéance le 31 décembre 2022, la résolution vise à renouveler le contrat d'assurance accident à la FQM Assurance et que le tout soit pour un montant total de 1 395,20 pour la période de couverture de l'année 2023.
I need a mover. I have Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.2, employee assistance program extension of beneficiaries. Whereas the town has already made available to the employees of the fire department an employee assistance program, an EAP, as provided for in the policy on working conditions for firefighters, section 17.2. Whereas the purpose of the EAP is to support employees experiencing difficulties, all in confidential, anonymous, and free environment to employees. Whereas the town wishes to add to the list any employee eligible for group insurance as a member of this EAP. This resolution is to amend the membership list for the Employee Assistance Program to approve the service contract with Solutions Mieux-être LifeWorks effective December 1st, 2022, and that the program has a monthly cost of $3.34 before taxes per employee, and that the amount allocated for this program be a maximum of $3,500 per year before tax.
6.2, programme d'aide aux employés, élargissement des bénéficiaires. Considérant que la Ville a déjà mis en place à la disposition des employés un service, à la disposition des employés du service incendie, un programme d'aide aux employés, donc PAE. Le PAE a pour but de soutenir les employés vivant des difficultés dans un environnement confidentiel, anonyme et gratuit. La Ville désire ajouter à cette liste tout employé admissible à l'assurance collective à titre de membre pour ce PAE. Donc, la résolution vise à modifier la liste des membres au programme, d'approuver le contrat de service avec la firme Solutions Mieux-être LifeWorks à compter du 1er décembre prochain. Le coût mensuel est de 3,34 $ avant taxe par employé, donc pour un maximum annuel de 3 500 avant taxe.
Need a mover and a seconder, so Darren Legault moved, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.3, suspension for investigation and dismissal of an employee. Considering the temporary suspension with pay for investigation imposed by the Director General to employee number 52 on November 2nd of 2022. Considering the administrative investigation that took place and considering the recommendation made by the Human Resources Department at the end of the investigation, this resolution is that council approve and ratify the temporary suspension with pay and that council approve and ratify the recommendation of the Director General and proceed with the dismissal of employee number 52 effective November 7th of 2022.
6.3, suspension pour fin d'enquête et congédiement, employé numéro 52, considérant la suspension temporaire avec traitement pour fin d'enquête imposée par le directeur général à l'employé 52, considérant l'enquête administrative qui a eu lieu, considérant la recommandation formulée au terme de cette enquête, la résolution vise à ce que le conseil approuve et ratifie la suspension temporaire avec traitement imposé à l'employé 52 et que le conseil approuve et ratifie la recommandation du directeur général et procède au congédiement de l'employé 52 effectif le 7 novembre 2022.
Merci. I will need a mover and a seconder. I see Darren Legault's hand is up. So moved by Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Ray. Are there any? What is it called?
Any objections to this?
Thank you.
resolution?
Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. No. Okay. Pretty hard. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.4, hiring of an urban planning inspector. So function 604. Considering that function 604 urban planning inspector of the Urban Planning Division has been vacant since June 6th of 2022, whereas the recommendation submitted by the Human Resources Coordinator. This resolution is to hire Monsieur Guillaume Loisel as Urban Planning Inspector, and that the hiring be effective as of November 14th of this year.
6.4, embauche d'un inspecteur en urbanisme, considérant que la fonction 604 inspecteur en urbanisme est dépourvue de son titulaire depuis le 6 juin dernier. Considérant la recommandation formulée par le service des ressources humaines, la résolution vise à embaucher M. Guillaume Loisel au titre d'inspecteur en urbanisme, fonction 604.
Mark Gray moving, seconded by Mark Gray. Peter May.
The other marker.
Peter May. Did I ask? Wait, are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. And as Darren likes to say, welcome to Monsieur Loisel.
Welcome aboard, Monsieur Loza.
Oui, merci. Donc, section 7, recreation and cultural activity. Give us an update. We need a bit of a break from these resolutions.
So after a very successful festival season this past summer, the Hudson Arts and Culture Council was able to sit down and take a little bit of time to finalize a survey that we have been working on since say at the beginning of the year, and create a beta of it, which I have provided to all the members of council. And they've been asked to fill it out, as we will be sitting down with the Hudson Arts and Culture Council on Thursday to meet with them face to face, as well as les Arts de la Ville, to discuss the results of the survey, as well as to bring everyone up to speed on where we're at in terms of developing a cultural policy for the town and what those next steps will be. I would like to take a minute to recognize one of our cultural institutions in town. It's kind of a big deal. Last night were the Meta Awards, the Montreal English Theatre Awards, and the Hudson Village Theatre was recognized and was presented with 3 awards for 2 productions that they put on this year. I would like to take a minute to just point those out. For outstanding production for Every Brilliant Thing, Best Actor, Danny Brochu, also in Every Brilliant Thing, and Best Text by Jimmy Blay for Feather Gardens, which was commissioned, and it was a world premiere play by Dean Fleming at the Hudson Village Theatre. So I personally am very proud of them, what they were able to accomplish. The Meta Awards are a pretty big deal. So I would just like to offer them a round of applause for a successful season. I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
I agree. Thank you so much, Reed. So it's item 7.1, 2023 summer day camp, whereas the town wishes to continue its annual offer of a summer day camp service for 2023. This resolution is that the town accept the offer of service of the firm that we've used in the past and even last year, or this year actually, L'Air en Fête, as the operator of the 2023 summer day camp, and agrees to the terms therein for a maximum of $23,800 before tax.
7.1 camp de jour été 2023. Considérant que la Ville désire maintenir le service annuel d'un camp de jour pour l'été à venir, la résolution vise à ce que la Ville accepte l'offre de service de la firme L'Air en Fête à titre d'opérateur du camp de jour pour l'été 2023, selon les termes indiqués dans l'offre, pour un maximum de 23 800 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Now we're moving mover and seconders. So Mark Gray moving, seconded by Benoit Boulet. Are there any objections with this resolution, to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is similar. This is for the March break day camp. So whereas the town wishes to offer a March break camp for the year of 2023, this resolution is that the town accept the offer of service from the same firm, L'Air en Fête, as operators of the 2023 March break camp, and agrees to the terms therein for a maximum of $2,850 before tax.
7.2, camp pour la semaine de relâche. Donc, similairement, la Ville désire offrir un camp pour les enfants pour la semaine de relâche. Et la résolution vise à accepter l'offre de la firme, comme précédemment, L'Air en Fête, pour opérer le camp de la semaine de relâche pour un montant de 2 850 avant taxe.
Mover and seconder, Mark Gray moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, authorization to pay statement number 3, addition of work AO-2022-8-TP. Whereas resolution R 2022-06-184 grant that an appel d'offres, which is a call to tender, contract for the renovations of several street sections with decohesion of the existing pavement Considering that there were some additions and contingencies on the project and additional costs were incurred at the request of council, such as the following: modification of Bellevue at Sanderson intersection, fixing the Cedar Street foundation, and solving Cedar Street drainage problem. This resolution is to approve the payment of an amount of $91,184.27 before taxes to the firm Ali Excavation for this additional work.
8.1, autorisation de paiement du décompte numéro 3. Ajout de travaux dans le cadre du contrat de réfection de plusieurs sections de rue avec décohésionnement de la chaussée existante. Dans le cadre de ce contrat-là, il y a eu des ajouts et des imprévus, notamment modification de l'intersection entre Bellevue et Sanderson, correction de la fondation de la rue C2, puis un problème de drainage sur la rue C2 également. La résolution vise à approuver le paiement d'un montant de 91 184,27 avant taxe à la firme Ali Excavation Inc.
Merci. We'll need a mover and a seconder. Benoit Blaine moving, seconded by Peter and Nate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously.
This is just what isn't really such a word as
Cohesion, yeah, actually.
I like to think I understand the English language. It's really.
Like a
Yeah.
Are you objecting or?
No, I just thought
Carried unanimously.
it was a language clarification.
Item 8.2, awarding of contract AO 2022-22 TP, replacement of footbridges located on trails in the natural environment. Whereas the town has 5 footbridges that are in need of replacing, including McNaughton Bridge, whereas the awarding of said contract must be following a call for tenders process. Considering that the following companies submitted an offer, and after evaluation of the offer, the following points were awarded. For EMS Structure Inc., they had a final score of 24.42, and as they were the only bidder, they finished first. This resolution is to award to EMS Structure the only complying offer received the contract for replacement of footbridges for an amount of $38,500 before taxes. Voilà.
8.2, octroi de contrat pour le remplacement de passerelles situées sur des sentiers en milieu naturel. Donc, considérant que la ville a 5 passerelles qui doivent être remplacées, ce type de contrat doit être octroyé au terme d'un processus d'appel d'offres. L'entreprise suivante est la seule à avoir soumis une offre. Donc, il s'agit de EMS Structure Inc. Donc, la résolution vise à octroyer à cette entreprise le contrat étant le seul et plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour un montant de 38 500 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Mover and seconder, Mark Gray moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.3, AO-2022-21 TP, authorizing additional cost estimates. Whereas a resolution adopted in October, so this is our 2022-10-291, awarded a contract for Main Street renewal and approval widening of the roadway to 7 meters. So this is for Main Road East. Whereas the estimate produced is in the amount of $682,756.08 before taxes. This amount is maximum and includes the cost for the potential relocation of pipes, depending on the reality that will be found during the course of the work. So I remind you, this is an addition to the contract that was already awarded, and this is an estimate. And to date, we are below this estimate. So this resolution is to approve the cost estimate in the maximum amount that was cited for the execution of this work, and that this expense be financed under loan by law 755-2022, and that be excess to the unassigned surplus.
8.3, autorisation de l'estimation des coûts supplémentaires dans le cadre du contrat de réfection de la rue Maine. Le mois passé, le conseil, par résolution, a octroyé le contrat et approuvé l'élargissement de la chaussée pour qu'elle ait une largeur de 7 mètres. Une estimation a été produite pour ces coûts supplémentaires et elle est au montant de 682 756,08 avant taxes. Et c'est un montant qui est maximal pour inclure des frais pour le potentiel déplacement de conduite selon ce qui va être constaté en cours de travaux. Donc, la résolution vise à approuver l'estimation des coûts réalisés par EXP au montant maximal de 682 756 et 8. Puis, c'est une dépense qui est financée par le règlement d'emprunt 755-2022 et l'excédent financé par le surplus non affecté.
Merci.
Mrs. Mayor, I believe you mentioned it, but this is to be used only as and if required,
Yes.
these funds.
Correct.
Thank you.
Now we'll need a mover and a seconder. So Doug Smith moving, seconded by Baron Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is very unanimous. This has been a long road without wanting to be facetious, but yes, c'est compliqué, mais ça va bien.
Ça avance bien.
Ça va vraiment bien. Ouais, merci.
C'est déjà là, au-delà de 2020, qui est déjà pour l'excédent à 40.
Yeah.
Ça va bien.
No, it's going good. So moving on to section 9, public safety, item 9.1, awarding of contract AO-2022-24-SP, Community Patrol and Security Guard Services Contract. Whereas the Community Patrol contract expires on November 30th of 2022, whereas the awarding of the said contract must be following a call for tender process. Whereas several bids, there were 5 bids received. And whereas the compliance analysis was carried out, whereas the bids submitted by Sécurité and Titan Sécurité are not compliant. This resolution is to award the contract to the lowest conforming bidder, which is Groupe Sûreté, so the same company that we have now. The contract for community patrol service for a 1-year contract, how does it go? For 13 months starting December 1st, with the random day option with 2 renewal options of 1 year each for the amount of $152,453.45 before taxes.
9.1, octroi de contrat pour un contrat de service de patrouille communautaire. Donc, considérant que le contrat actuel vient à échéance le 30 novembre 2022, l'octroi de ce contrat doit se faire au terme d'un processus d'appel d'offres. Il y a 5 entreprises qui ont soumis un prix. Et suite à l'analyse de conformité des soumissions, 2 soumissions déposées, soit celle de Sécurité et Titan Sécurité, sont non conformes. Donc, la résolution vise à octroyer à Groupe Sûreté Inc. le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de service de patrouille communautaire pour un montant de 152 453,45 avant taxes.
Merci. I will need a mover. Peter Mate, and seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
Just some clarification. It says a bid submitted by Securitech, and in French it says the same thing, Securitech, but I don't see a Securitech in the list of.
It's on the first.
It's on the
Oh, I'm
first
sorry,
page.
okay, it's on the other side.
Yeah. All right, so are you in support of this
Oh, yeah,
resolution?
okay,
Are you supporting this resolution?
yes.
Yes, so it is
Right.
carried unanimously. Moving on to section 10, bylaws. Item 10.1, notice of motion and tabling of the draft bylaw number 708.2-2022, modifying bylaw 708-2018 regarding contractual management. So this is essentially where by law there is a set ceiling. And we are removing the exact amount because this amount gets updated on an annual basis by the government. So by just citing that reference in the government makes that bylaw perpetually good rather than needing to be updated on an annual basis. So I will need a counselor to give notice. So Mark Gray gives notice of motion And as I explained here, the purpose of this bylaw is to amend the current bylaw to refer to the current threshold and no longer to an amount, thereby ensuring ongoing consistency with the threshold of expenditure for a contract that can only be awarded following a public tender decreed by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and
10.1, donc avis de motion et dépôt du projet pour le règlement 708.2-2022, modifiant le règlement 708-2018 sur la gestion contractuelle. Donc, le conseiller Mark Gray a donné avis de motion. Et c'est un projet de règlement qui vise à modifier le règlement en vigueur afin de référer dorénavant au seuil décrété par le ministre des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation et non plus au montant spécifique, ce qui va nous permettre une concordance en continu pour ce qui est du seuil de la dépense d'un contrat auquel on doit aller en appel d'offres.
Moving on to item 10.2, notice of motion and tabling of the draft bylaw number 753.1-2022, amendment to bylaw 753-2022 to support the sewer connection assistance program. So as mentioned earlier, this is to simplify the process that we had started a few months ago with regards to encouraging people who can to connect to the sewage network. So the purpose of the bylaw is to make changes to the terms and conditions of the program, including funding and requirements to allow more flexibility and accessibility to the program. I will need a counselor to give notice of motion. Reed Thompson gives notice of motion.
10.2, avis de motion et dépôt du projet règlement 753.1-2022, qui est un amendement au règlement 753-2022 relatif au programme d'aide au raccordement au réseau d'égouts. Donc, le conseiller Reed Thompson a donné avis de motion pour un règlement qui vise à apporter des modifications aux modalités du programme, notamment quant au mode de financement et aux exigences requises, et ce, dans le but de permettre plus de flexibilité et de faciliter l'accessibilité au programme.
Under section 11, new business, how about an update about SDC and anything Festival of Lights related?
Okay, well, the SDC, I mean, we had our SDC social event, which took place a few weeks ago, and I was happy to see a nice group of merchants come out and join us. There was maybe 25, 30-ish merchants that were out, and it was really vibrant and well received. Everybody came with an open mind, and we were lucky enough to have a half dozen or so special guests in the room that had a lot of knowledge. Some of them came up to the stage and spoke a little bit about their experience, their successes with SDCs. And ultimately, the goal of this event was to kind of demystify where did we go wrong, what are the opportunities, how can we make it right, and what are the values of an SDC. And then to let the merchants decide amongst themselves as a group of whether or not this is something they'd like. So the next step would be really to figure out the legal logistics to get the SDC back up and running. At which point I think I have it in me maybe to get another get together with the merchants and hand this information over, and then let a group of the merchants kind of take this on if it's something that really they want as a group. I'll have given them the tools and the roadmap to get there. So that's kind of where we're at with the SDC. So so far the feedback that I've gotten from the majority of the merchants seems positive. So we'll see where that goes. As for the Night of Lights, I don't have the date.
November 25th, and it's on our website already.
I do have the date. It's November 25th, obviously. So November 25th, last year was the first Night of Lights. Or yeah, so I don't know, pre-COVID, does it really even exist? Maybe not, but anyhow, last year it was a fantastic event. We were really lucky to have a group of citizens pitch in and help out with all the craziness that was going on. And so looking forward to this year's event as well.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. With regards to the SDC, we have asked our wonderful team to our right to look into how to simplify the SDC's bylaws. So they're arduously working on this. And also there were some great suggestions that came from the people who attended the SDC social, perhaps putting together a working committee to refine the next steps. And I know that Peter has also been looking at different strategies on how to fairly look at pricing and strategy on that. So keep your ears and eyes open. We're definitely very motivated to get that back on track. Okay, were there any other new businesses that I have forgotten? All right, second question period. Please come to the mic. Well, we'll start there and we'll alternate if there's some online. Yes, thank you. If you could give me your name.
My name is Zach Ouimet. This is my wife, Yaz. Pleasure to meet all of you. I know Mark, we've been in emails together before. So just a little bit of background of who we are. I know it's a question period, but I think it'll serve you guys to understand a bit of who we are. Yaz and I have been now married 3 years, and we moved to Hudson a couple of years ago after I discovered Hudson in my 20s, fell in love with Hudson, and we've been now residents of Hudson since 2020, and we decided to call Hudson our home and raise a family here, and we're actively working on that currently. Read between the lines, like right now. So where was I? So anyways, we are currently living in an apartment right on Main, and we've been very active in the community. I mean, if you guys come to Miko or Burley, you'll run into us and our dog Marcus, and I'm often at the Alibi with Alex. And anyways, we put in an application tonight for a house for the house on Main Street on so it's item 3.4 that was refused unanimously. Obviously, you know, it's a decision that was made, and we understand that, and we're not here to vigorously contest the decision de vive voix in front of all of you. But what we'd like to understand is more so the why it was rendered. Because my wife and I are currently living in an apartment, and we've been planning this house for a long time, and we are totally willing to obviously play ball and work with you guys so that it works out. And going into the process, my wife and I were quite blind. You know, we were working with the builder, and we understand that Hudson is, you know, we live in Hudson because we love the way Hudson looks, you know, and we want to preserve the authenticity of Hudson, and we want to work with you guys so that authenticity is preserved. But right now we're kind of working in the dark. We don't know what to do. And frankly, in applying and in submitting what we submitted, we kind of felt like, oh, you know, it was gonna pass or whatever. Anyways, but it hasn't. And we watched the live stream tonight, and we're gonna be very honest in listening to what the motives were for the refusal. We were left with more questions than answers. We really don't know what the answer meant. So, you know, we're here just to better understand why it was refused, and just say to you, you know, my wife and I are, you know, we love Hudson. We want to make this our home, and we want to work with you guys to make this work. So, you know, if there's anything you can provide us as additional explanation just to better understand the decision, it would be greatly appreciated. So then we can take that back and you know, resubmit something that that's viable and that's potable, and that you are all happy with.
Thank you. So how Peter made as best as he can a portrait of the conversation and the implications.
Yeah, so it was the property at 185 Main, right? The Willowbrook?
Correct.
Okay, so from what I remember, you know, urban planning is going to be able to fill in some of the gaps. So they'll give you more than, what's on paper here, and they'll give you some great orientations. But off the top of my head, I think there's three things that came up in the discussion that I remember. One was with regards to the roof lines, specifically at the back of the house. Because the house is on Main Road, it's visible from the left and the right. So the back of the roof line is a topic that came up that I remember. One of the objectives and criteria along Main Road is to minimize the amount of materials, finishing materials. So on the front of the house, there was a discussion about the opportunity to minimize the amount of different materials on the front of the house. And I believe the third thing that I remembered was when looking at the plans, there were some areas where it seemed like there was some backfilling that got awfully close to some of the basement windows. So the reality was going to be maybe different than what was on paper. So those are the three kind of areas that I remember came up for discussion with regards to the Main Road objectives and criteria that we're trying to kind of keep.
Okay. So
The front facade was definitely very appreciated, right? I think
Right.
if the quantity of materials could be simplified, that would go a long way. And then simplifying the roof lines, really, just to bring it back to its essential volume. And then understanding better on how the site fits, the ground line fits with the house. Okay. So it's pretty straightforward.
And
Because to me, that is, we're attorneys, we're not architects. For me, that's, it's hard for us to, the roof line, sorry, the frontage I can understand. The roof line, if you can provide us with any recommendations, we'll gladly take them into consideration.
The urban planning department.
Okay, okay, great.
And
is it possible to make a meeting with the urban planning department and sit down with them, or?
Just call them tomorrow and we should be able to schedule something.
On peut organiser quelque chose. Ok, parfait. Parfait.
And just
Thank
to
you.
add, I know that maybe a lot of us won't have an idea of what a new roof line could look like, but if you're speaking with your architect, and you mention the feedback that you get from urban planning, the roof lines or something like that, they'll understand it. They'll kind of have a new approach to it, so they'll know what urban planning is talking about. And also, it's not uncommon that projects, don't fly through TPAC and on the first go. So it's not, an isolated case. A lot of the projects that were approved tonight, it's the third or fourth times that they've come through. So they've been some refinement.
Yeah.
So-
And we're very well aware of that, and that's fine. It was more just when we heard the reasoning, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, now what do we do? What's the next step? And because we were active, we want to be active in trying to make this work. So it's very much appreciated. Thank you very much for the answer. It helps us a lot. And we're going to reach out to urban planning and sit down with them and the architect and make this work. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you very much. It's really appreciated.
Good luck with your family. Laura?
All right, honey. It's time for us to leave.
Clearly. Is there a question on that?
Yes, we have a question from June Penny.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, speaking about the aesthetic look of Main Road, is there any timeline of when those new buildings at Willowbrook will be getting their facade put up? I'm still questioning what the real look is going to look like as we drive down Main Road.
You mean the 4 that are already built or the lots that are under construction? Is that what you
No,
mean?
and the ones on Main Road that you see as you drive along Main Road, because they're all.
You mean the cladding? You mean the color and the siding? Is that what you mean?
The siding, exactly.
Yeah.
The exterior appearance of those homes. Do we have any idea of what that is meant to be?
Oh, meant to be. So it's horizontal siding and most of the coloring schemes for Willowbrook have been in the neutral tones. There's nothing, it's not like blues and reds. It's very much beiges and creams and.
But is there a reason why they haven't put the exterior appearance to the homes yet?
Yeah, as Doug suggested, it's probably supply chain. I agree. The materials have been hard to come by since the pandemic, and some there's just a greater slowdown on them. But I'm sure that as soon as they reach them, receive them, if you saw the Maison Bleue, same situation, it took them a long time to start putting their siding up. So it should, in theory, be in the next few months.
Are you talking about the Maison Bleue that used to be Clementine's?
I'm giving that as an example of a house that, or a construction that wasn't clad for a long time. And it's probably for the same reason.
Yeah, and when I went by there the other day, it was far from being blue. It was like a dark gray is what it looked like to me.
Maison Bleue?
Mm-hmm.
It's a powder blue or whatever, blue poudre.
It's far from blue.
The color they submitted at TPAC. All right, did you have another question, Judy?
No, that was it. I was just curious to know why the siding hadn't been put on the homes yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question online?
Yeah, Jim Duff.
Jim Duff, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm calling about the bylaw 3.9, the bird-friendly city. The Mark Gray referred to the cats as a major issue. The cats, feral cats and domestic cats, both. And I know that the town has a history of having donated to Casca, the organization that conducted spay-neuter programs for feral cats. And I don't know if I've seen a lot of cats around, roaming around. We live off the Bradbury Trail, so I suspect there may be some feral cats living down there. I don't know what the population is, but could it be possible that we would seriously consider spay-neuter programs again for the, like we haven't done for, I don't know, at least 5, maybe 7 years, to mitigate the problem of feral cats? And well, domestic cats, we can't, that's up to individuals. I mean, ideally, I'd have cats treated the same way as dogs, you need a license. But feral cats would be the problem, and that would be a problem that we could address if we gave more funding to Casca or a similar organization.
I don't know if Casca has submitted a request this year. No, Laura says no, not yet. But certainly with there's a service, right, that takes care of stray animals. Maybe they have a suggestion on a program that may exist, because you have to catch these and then have the procedure done and then release them. So it'd be easier if it went through an organization that actually does this on a regular basis rather than invent a process ourselves.
Also, Jim, there are recommendations in the sort of the criteria that they recommend to be part of the bird-friendly city and how to deal with cats. A lot of it is education, of course, and there are some measures you can do of your own accord, to try and prevent your cat from, going after birds and stuff. But there are approaches that they recommend for feral cats and domestic cats and so on.
Does that answer your question, Jim?
So yeah, pretty much. But it seems that if I was to look this up, this bird-friendly cat characterization for the town of Hudson, it would depend on our ability to rein in. Though I don't believe that what was presented in the bylaws in the motion, I don't believe that it actually referred to any kind of control on feral cats. But my understanding is that the bird-friendly characterization that we're applying for makes feral cat mitigation a major centerpiece of their policy. Mark, you seem to suggest that that's so. What are we going to do about that?
If you want, Jim, I can send you the list of recommendations that they make. It's it's a point system. There's a multitude of areas that we can make small improvements to gain points, essentially, to get our certification for a bird-friendly city. Cats are well known as a major issue for birds, the biggest human-caused issue for birds. But if you'd like, I'll send you the details of those criteria that they recommend. We can pick and choose the ones that we want to gain those points for the accreditation that we're after. But I could fire that off to you if you like.
Okay, Mark, thanks.
You bet.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any other questions?
There's nobody else
No?
online.
I'll look it up. So I believe we are. Oh, sorry. Please come to the microphone. If you don't speak in the mic, then the people online won't hear you.
My name is Salvatore Vecchio. I just moved to Hudson. And very beautiful city. I'm in town, okay? And just want to introduce myself as a newcomer and just open a small business because we were talking about the small businesses. And I'd like to know when is it that I can come and, you know, be part of it. And it's called Les Aliments Salina on 3100 Harwood. Okay. But I wanted to know if that's part of Vaudreuil Dorion.
Yep.
So it has nothing to do with Hudson, right?
Well, you live in Hudson, but your
Yes, I live in
business is
Hudson.
in Vaudreuil, so you're.
Yeah,
still-
okay. 101 Selkirk. My girlfriend name is Lena Simone, which she's you know, been here for I don't know how many years. I've been coming here for 8 years, and I just want to introduce myself as a new citizen in Hudson.
Oh.
So and so people
Well,
know me,
thank
and
you.
because I'm in business. I was in business in Montreal for 30 years as a mechanic. 73 years old, gave everything up, and I moved to Hudson.
Well, we're happy to have you.
Okay,
Thank you
so
very much.
that's all I wanted.
And welcome.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for attending tonight.
Sorry?
Thank you for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And I've been to your store and it's fantastic. Thank you.
All right. So, section 12, adjournment of meeting, moved by Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. All in favor? Nobody in disfavor? No, in disfavor, all in favor. So it is carried unanimously at 9:54 p.m. Thank you. Merci tout le monde.
Yes.
J'adore le temps.